And before we get started on the live coding, I want to remind you of the Slack channel that we're using for further assistance, questions, and discussions. Find the channel and join us. On Slack, it's Build a DS project for additional assistance. And we've got our speaker for today, Victoria. Victoria is a data analyst at Labentana Innovation Lab in Lima, Peru. She has a master's degree in computer science and a degree in computer and system engineering. She's an active volunteer at data science track at WWCode, and she's a woman tech maker at Google, and she's a Lima ambassador and co-organizer in Google Developer Group. She's very passionate about technology, data, and innovation. And it's a pleasure having you here with us, Victoria.
Hello, Gagana. Thank you too for that introduction.
I'll stop the sharing now and hand it over to you.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, let me a second. All right. Okay, you see my screen?
It's great.
Nice. Okay, welcome everybody to the session 3 for Build a Data Science Project from scratch. I'm Victor Ubaldo. I'm from Lima, Peru. So welcome to be here for this session. First, congratulations for the start of session 3. I hope that you was enjoying all the past sessions. And I'm motivated to continue for these activities because it's very important and interesting to build your first data science project if you want to start in that field, data science. So yeah, in this session, I will to introduce you more about how or what is data wrangling, and also what is feature engineering. So in this session, I want to tell you why is very important in data cleaning, in the big data environment. Also, what is data wrangling? What is feature engineering? Well, I want to start to talk about what is big data and data cleaning. In some scenarios of some projects, you work with a lot of data, for example, for different sources. Sometimes it's very work with large data sets. Sometimes cleaning the data is very challenging. So if you don't, you need a process to not only clean the data, also to have the most quality data for your project. Because if you don't have that process, probably you're going to find duplicated, mislabeled, and different problems in your algorithms. So the result of when you collect your data that is not clean is raw data. So what is data wrangling or data cleaning? This is the process that you transform your raw data into more readily used formats. It depends on the projects. For example, when you work with numerical data or numerical rows, you need to create some process with decimals. If you are working in a financial project, you need to do more careful for some calculations. So it depends of the project. And also what tools we recommend you to use for that process. If you will work with Python, we use some famous libraries like pandas or NumPy, regular expressions, regex, no, for pattern matching or text manipulations. Beautiful Soup, if you want to scrap data with in Twitter or in Facebook to have a sentimental analysis for tweets, for example. SciPy for clustering, filtering, smoothing data, and also OpenRefine, that is an open source project that I recommend you to check. It's very useful to have more automation when you want to clean your data. Have a good tools that I recommend you to check that. If you want to use SQL, for example, you have a MySQL connection, a Teradata, I don't know, or BigQuery, for example. Using SQL is a good tool to clean your data tool, because you can specify what is the filters you need to do. For example, create more trim functions, round functions, something like that. Yeah. So for that is that it's very important to know that Python not only for or organize for data management, is very useful also for data cleaning. And why is data really so important? That is the phrase that I find in a post the last month that it says, garbage data in is garbage analysis out. It's very necessary to have the responsibility be ethical with the data that we are working. Because if you have a wrong answer or the result of your dashboard or your machine learning model, probably can impact the business operation or the use case that you are working. Probably the business can take wrong decisions. So for that, it's very important to have complete your data and have the format that is correct. Because when you work with data, you work for not only numbers, you work with people, the persons, process that exist in the real world. So for that is very necessary to do that project, that process. It's real, like in the normal pipelines. Sometimes if we don't have enough time to do that process, but compense the result that could be more fun, have more performance to the business app. You can be more ethical and reduce the bias. Also, we work with more diversity data, more distributed, right? Because, for example, one day you are working with CSV files, other day you are working with data with connection with the cloud. It's very distributed, your data source, and you need to connect the data to have the same meaning and consolidate, have the good sense with the organizations. So for that reason, it's necessary to do that process. So yeah, okay, Victoria, I'm going to take the process to clean the data, and how is started for that process. It's just that slides have some information for different strategies for that. One of the most important is missing values. Sometimes it's a question as if necessary to input rows or columns, or I need to drop the missing values. it depends of if you have the balanced data for your target. The next is if you want to remove duplicated or repeated observation for your dataset, like in the collab. In the next minutes, I'm going to explain more about that. Then if you want to have good conversions on formats on data types, it's necessary to check the data type for in your data frame. Very necessary to check outliers, because sometimes for reduce your bias or reduce the change that the accuracy could be wrong. Well, when you find structural errors, for example, find missing the values like NA, like when you don't have values in your rows. The next is for data validations. You want to test your hypothesis, or you have other metric you want to compare your data. So it's for have that data quality for your data before uploaded in your model. Okay, so this is an example for data cleaning with Python. In the left side is a screenshot for an Excel, like it's a sample using the data set of Spotify, like you remember that you use the last session. Well, for that example, we find that the columns, some title have some missing values. So how use Python in that process? You can define this simple code using the data frame with the name of a column, and then you want to use this function file NA, and then you use your string that you can replace the missing values with no title. So the next time you want to filter your column, if you notice that the percentage of that value, no title, is very huge, you can take the decision that, okay, I want to drop the column because I don't have enough information to use in my model, because don't have sense for that. Okay, so let's start about feature engineering. You see in this imaging, feature engineering is the process before the data quality, when you transform your data, you clean your data, and after the model building. And why is before the data modeling? Because sometimes you have only your data set with I don't know, 10 rows, 10 columns, sorry. You have the opportunity to produce or create your own features. In fact, to have more content or more context for your model. Because for that process, it's very necessary to simplify and speed up data transformation. We also need model accuracy. I'm going to share how can use feature engineering. For example, you can create a session for brainstorming features. You can use other data source to have more context, have more options to try, explore, iterate your model. Then you want to create new feature combining or transforming existing features. And also, if you want to transform features, for example, encoding the data using dummy variables. For that, I'm going to explain more about one-hot encoding. For example, I have this column like I have that column artist, I have these values, feature, brick house, beach house, and Drake, and children can be. So what hot encoding is the process like I want to don't use this column because remember when you introduce values in your model, it's necessary not use categorical, it's necessary to be numerical. So what you recommend you to use that? You see that I going to use each values and then depends of the rows. For example, in the first row, future is in the first row, so is 0, is 1. And when it's not in the row, I'm going to put 0. So it's the other way to create more features. Probably could be more great for your model to be more improved and have a good column for your results. Other concepts for that is normalize the data versus standardize your data. I'm going to show you that how is working with math. Normalization is you fix your numerical features for a range for between 0 and 1 using the mix-max scalar. Like you see the normalization is a value for 0 or 1, when is in the actual data, when you use normalization is before that values. Standardization is the similar technique, but is different because it's not only for 0 for 1, it's also for the 0 mean and unit variance. And more details for that, we're going to share a link for if you want to discover the math before that standardization, but basic is using the mean for the standard deviation. Okay. If you want also create new feature like I was saying, you can use assign the new column in your data frame, and then you want to rename your data with a fusion for the row or the column. So yes, before to jump for the Google Colab, remember that after data wrangling, now it's necessary to use the data to use you need to use your data set with the process for the wrangling before to train your model. Because if you want to have more exact predictions, you need to do that before. Take that picture engineering like a very experimental process. Enjoy create new data, your columns, new features. Next for that process, try to select the most relevant features as possible for your data. For that feature selection process, also select your most important features for your projects. So, okay, so we're going to change for the Google Colab. I'm going to use that. Okay. Well, let's start for using some code from data cleaning. I don't know if we have any questions here or, okay. I want to use the same data set from the last sessions. So first, okay, I want to import my libraries like Snappy, Pandas, and Scikit-learn for standard scholar. Then I want to load my data. Here is the data. Like you remember, this is the project for check the data for Spotify. So you see columns like danceability, duration, energy, keys, and some title and artist. Okay. It's a description also with the values, the mean, all the information, the basic statistic information. I'm going to start to check if we have some missing values. So for that, we use this code info, and we see that each column has the same name of the column. So we don't have missing values, so we need to continue. Other method to check if we have empty or missing values is to use that function is not, and then the sum to summarize the columns, then the rows. We confirm that don't have missing values. So let's continue. Okay, if you have missing values, you remember how you can replace the values. For example, if you have, for example, the duration column, if you find some rows that could be don't have values, you can replace for the mean. How can you do that? I'm going to show here is define, use the data frame, duration ms, then the field na, and then you can replace with duration ms with the mean of all the column. Is other methods if you can detect some missing values in that. Of the other method is here with short code. Okay, so we are check again. Well, okay, don't have missing values. I do remember when we upload our data, you will probably want to check some no relevant values. For example, in unnamed, like it probably could be an ID. So in the next step, we're going to drop that column because it's unnecessary for our analysis. So for drop, it could be that drop, and then you write the name of the column, and that's all. Okay, the next, when you want to check duplicated values, that line is to check the duplicated, and then the next line is to check how many, well, this is for to check how many rows is duplicated, and the next is for drop that. Okay, so we see 5 values that are duplicated, and then I'm going to check that this rows is dropped. And yes, you remember I have 2017, and then I have 2012. So yes, my data is okay for now. Okay, the next is to check how many unique values have in our data set. So for that, we use that code and unique. We see that some columns could have sense and necessary to be there or not. So for example, it's important to have tensibility, duration to have the predictions, instrumentalness, keys, small tempo. What about some title or artist? Do you think could be good to have, for example, one hot encoding for that for our analysis? What do you think? Yes, the Google Colab going to share in the GitHub soon. And yes, first, well, the question was, you think the song title and the artist is recommended to create one hot encoding or dummy variables? You think could be a good idea or not? Okay, I see now since yes, no, dummy variables. Okay. More answers. Okay, cool. Thank you for your answers. Okay, I'm going to do first the rename for the columns, and then I'm going to share more about that, the process of one hot encoding. Right. You remember that one hot encoding is for categorical values. That's values because you see that 196 different values and also 1,343 values. So you imagine your table could be very huge, right? So it's necessary to check always these unique values with the type of the column, because remember that all the other columns was numeric, so that's okay. But if you have, for example, 3 categories or 4 categories for your column, it's okay. But if you want to have more performance for your model, because remember in some notebooks, if you have your GPUs or the TPUs, you can invest more time to produce a good result for the categorical values if you want to do that, get dummies. So for this step, I'm going to recommend you to don't use get dummies when you have huge values for categorical, right? And then for that reason, I'm going to drop the top categorical, song title, and artist, because we don't have it's necessary to create the dummies for that reason. And then I'm going to continue for normalized data versus standardized data. You remember normalized data was fix your numerical values for picture between 0 for 1. Standardized is with using the standard deviation. So for I used to select all my numerical columns for scale. And I recommend you to use for our project the standard scalet. And why? Because for our analysis, our numerical for more exactly or more performance for our machine learning algorithms, it's necessary to have more a good distributed for all the features. So for that reason, I'm going to use the standard scalar object. And how can I use that? Select all your numerical columns that you need to scale, then create a variable scalar, a standard scalar, and then it's like a model. You use that array, and then use the scalar with that function fit transfer, and with that you change your values with a standard scalar. And well, other feature engineer ideas, for example, the music genders, the temporal variability, the beat strength and instrumental sections. All the information is in this notebook, but only for that, some ideas for new variables could be the tempo variability. You remember the tempo is a variable about describing for each songs. So a new variable could be the temporal variability using the standard deviation. Other variable could be the temporal range. For example, calculating using the max value minus the mean value. So we are going to create that new features, and then this is our finished work for our data cleaning process. You see, it's not only for 041. You see negative values, but it's for the standardization that we are creating. And how can finish our work is saving the cleaning data for the next session. So how can use that to CSV, cleaning data, or is here, yeah, is here the data sets. Okay, so that was the process for cleaning the data. If you have any questions, I can answer. So, yeah, you can enter your questions in the Q&A box. And also, I'm going to share with you more resources for cleaning the data. You can check the real Python blogs. There you have a lot of information how can use Python and NumPy for more strategics for that. Also, some resources is in Medium accounts. Well, if you can try to do all the project. Okay, I'm going to repeat the necessary to create a temporal value. Okay, I'm going to, sorry. I don't know this. Let me check. Oh, sorry. I don't know where is my screen here. Okay, I'm here. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to show you how is the variable of tempo here. Okay. The tempo is a metric that have each songs that the description is here. Where is the description? Is here. Okay. You see the values have beats per minute. Sometimes you need metrics more have a different range for each values. Can use I don't know, some songs could be for example, tempos most heights or more with different difference could be more outliers, more highs, more lows. So for the tempo variability, I use the standard deviation for that. Because for if don't have problem when you have the prediction for that value. For example, you remember that the target for that for the project is to predict which the recommendations for 0 for 1 for each for depends of the songs, depends for the tempo or anything like that. So I think this process for tempo variability is for the reduce the tempo changes or fluctuations each for different songs. So it's a good idea for that. If you want to try different statistics functions, could be awesome. I don't know if we have other questions. Okay, thank you too. Okay, what's the purpose of standardization the data? Okay, it's a good question because sometimes you can find different values, for example, for the numerical values, right? Because if you use only the normal number, for example, in this example, I'm going to see the data set, the instrumentals, the liveliness, the loneliness. Sometimes it's necessary to try to change or standardize your raw values to improve the speed of your column when entered to the machine learning models, for example, a random forest or a regression, because depends on the in which sense of the value. It's necessary to don't have very huge number, for example, 100 or 2000 in each rows. I recommend you in my experience and always use standardization for have small values to enter to the model is for speed. Have more is enter to this good values more low than 0 for 1 could be more great for your predictions. So I recommend you to try a good practice for do a standardization before enter your model. And for more information for that, you can check the documentation. Okay, thank you. Okay. So I don't have any questions. So yeah, cool. Is okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here and learn more with me about data wrangling. I hope that can be useful for your project. Recommend you to continue in the next sessions because the next sessions will be more for more practical for model and will be more fun. So thank you for being here.